Welcome to the Campaign Trend podcast, where you're joining in on a conversation with the entrepreneurs, operatives, and experts who make professional politics happen. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Our guest today is Bruce Schneier, one of the world's leading security technologists and the author of more than a dozen books on technology and society. His latest, which I'm really excited about, is called Rewiring Democracy: How AI Will Transform Our Politics, Government, and Citizenship. Comes out this fall from MIT Press. In it, Bruce and his co-author Nathan Sanders argue that AI isn't just a future concern. It's already reshaping how we write laws, run campaigns, and even think about citizenship. They reject both hype and fear and instead offer a clear-eyed roadmap for how AI can strengthen democracy rather than weaken it. And that's why I'm excited to have him here, because it represents a reasonable middle ground, I think. And so we're digging into today how AI is changing politics right now, what risks we need to take seriously as practitioners, and where the real opportunity lies. So Bruce, your book, Rewiring Democracy, argues that AI is already reshaping politics, government, and even citizenship. So not sometime into the future, but right now. What's the most important example that people are missing?
There are examples everywhere, and people are missing them because they largely happen behind the scenes. Right? When people think about AI, they think about chatbots spewing misinformation. They don't think about Grammarly or Google Maps, which are both AI systems. We see AI transforming politics, right? How candidates run for office, lawmaking, administration, the judiciary, and then citizenship. I mean, I'll just pick one sort of random in lawmaking. We've already had the world's first law written by an AI. It was in Brazil, a city called Puerto Alegre, and a legislator there wanted to write an ordinance, a law about water meters, fired up a chatbot, got text, submitted it without telling anybody. It was debated on, it was not amended, voted on, and passed. Now, if you think about it, that's exactly the way we want AI to be. A human uses the AI as an assistive tool, and the fruits of that tool go into a human process, and the humans decide what to do about it. I think that's pretty great. In campaigning, we're seeing AIs. There are a few companies in the US that do this, using AI to help people run for office. So don't think president, don't think senator or congressperson. Think city council, think school board, think local elections where there's no budget, no staff, and it's a person just doing it. And here an AI can make a huge difference, enabling people who are less wealthy to file the paperwork, put up a website, have campaign literature, engage with possible funders or voters. I mean, these are all kind of exciting ways that AI will make democracy more accessible to someone running for office, to someone in office, and to normal citizens.
It really has the potential to be a great equalizer on that front. You don't need to have access to a lobbyist to figure out how to write a bill and improve things, or have a world-class political strategist tell you how to run. It can help you navigate that for you, which is why we'll talk about this a little bit later about some of the regulations that we've got to be careful. And so before we do that, I want to talk about this balance, because on one hand you have people who think that this is going to be the Jetsons or Utopia, Star Trek, everything's going to be great, pick your metaphor. On the other side, I hear this a lot from folks that it's going to be the Terminator, Skynet, it's going to kill us all. I think you and your co-author Nathan reject kind of both sides of that, but I want to ask you, why do you think the extremes dominate the conversation? And how can we keep people focused on this middle ground of AI as a tool giving us leverage?
Yeah, it's a couple of things there. One, extremes dominate conversations generally, so no surprise here. And two, like, it's really bad to get your tech or policy advice from the movies, television, or cartoons. The reason people think that way, because that's what they see. Turns out these tools are tools for humans. And You earlier said that it'll be a great tool if it democratizes access to running for office. And maybe it does that, and maybe it doesn't. One of the themes in our book is about power. And does this technology concentrate power or distribute power? So I'll take another example. AI is being used by attorneys. There's an entire industry of AI tools to assist attorneys, and in some cases replace attorneys. Writing briefs, doing legal research, looking through discovery documents, helping figure out who should be on a jury. Now, to the extent that these tools give access to justice to people who right now can't afford expensive attorneys, that's a great thing. But if in fact what they do is they make the already expensive and powerful attorneys more expensive, then that's bad. And a lot of these tools, a lot of these use cases fall on that balance. We don't know how it's going to come out. Does it distribute power or does it concentrate power? And these are not new debates. We can talk about that with social media. We can talk about that with the internet itself. And I think that matters a lot, and little changes in regulation can affect that.
So Bruce, I've been a fan of your work for a while, and you do a good job making frameworks. So the information operations kill chain, still one of my favorites. But in this book, you're writing about the 4 S's. So speed, scale, scope, and sophistication as the ways that AI outperforms humans. Can you walk us through that framework, and specifically with an eye towards politics and democracy?
It's less politics and more replacing humans. So this is a very general framework. For an AI to replace a human, doesn't have to be better across all dimensions, just across one of several. And the 4 we talk about are speed, scale, scope, and sophistication. So, for example, a trained human is way better than an AI at detecting spam. But we have billions of spam messages every second. There's no way a human can do that. So we're going to use an AI, even though it's not as good as a human, because because it works at a higher speed. Now, on the other hand, AIs are better than humans at chess. They play the game with a higher sophistication. Can operate at a scale that humans can't. So another example in our book are chatbots being used to help mediate debates, help facilitate conversations, basically to help citizens come to agreement. There's a lot of work in AI facilitation. Nothing a human can't do better. But I don't have enough humans to go into every Reddit chat room.
Well, interesting, yeah.
Right? So the scale of an AI means it's going to do the job even though a human does it better because the AI scales better. So, and I think that's an important way to think about AI replacing humans. It might do worse along multiple dimensions, but if it does better under one of these key dimensions, speed, scale, scope, and sophistication, we're likely to use it. And this isn't bad. This might be good. I think it would be great to have negotiation facilitation among lots of disagreeing parties where there is no alternative right now.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I found it helpful in talking to people is kind of mapping this back onto technology that once was new, but now we're used to. So for example, photography, right? I'm sure we could go back and there were people, if they had podcasts back then, worrying about, photography is going to take away the job from all the portrait painters, and, Matthew Brady is going to take over the world. But if you look at your framework here, well, I can take 100 photographs in a very short period of time. I can't paint 100 portraits. And so I think that's a really helpful way to sort of say, okay, on one of these metrics, we're not saying that it's, more creative. We're not saying that it's got more soul or whatever you want to ascribe to it. So I think that's really, really helpful here.
But on the other hand, there are no portrait painters anymore, basically, right?
You don't hang around
now a niche
enough. Yeah.
So it does change jobs. And those who fear AI displacing jobs, I think, have a legitimate fear. What's interesting is that it's going after the white collar jobs, right? The trades are fine. It's the entry level attorneys, the entry level accountants, the journalists, right? Those are the people who are worried. And I wonder, because they are a more powerful class in society, whether society will do something about it. Where, if they were lower paid workers, we would probably just ignore the problem. But if they're like the wealthy white guys, then we start paying attention. But I think job displacement is a huge risk. And I don't know a lot about it, but I don't think we can ignore it, because it's going to take entry level jobs.
For sure. Won't we please think about the lawyers? I guess that's in the book you refer to AI as a power magnifier, so that it can either concentrate the power in the hands of a few, like you talked about, or distribute it more widely. Does it all go one way, or can it go different ways on different dynamics, and what determines which way it goes?
I think it certainly can go all different ways. When I thought about the internet, that social media, I would write about the quick versus the strong. In the early days of social media, power was distributed to the masses, right? The dissidents, the individuals, the criminals, those who were able to use this platform to get new power of organization, of coordination that they didn't have before. And governments were didn't know what to do about it. Think about the color revolutions. It took a few years, but when the governments figured out how to use the internet and social media, they had more raw power to magnify. So now we're seeing governments using it for surveillance and control to a greater degree than dissidents can use it for coordination and organization. So there, right, power was distributed at first, and then it concentrated. AI is going to depend on how difficult it is to create your own AI. We're living in a world where multiple hundreds of millions of dollars to create a core model, but that world is being chipped away at. It's getting cheaper and cheaper. I looked 2 weeks ago. There are 2 million open source models on Hugging Face. A few months ago, there were 1 million. Now, these are not at the level of GPT-5 or any, and the major models we're using today, but they're very capable. And we're seeing diminishing returns at this sort of higher end level. The more the tech is distributed technologically, I think email versus Facebook, the more it distributes power. So for AI, we're not going to know till we see how this tech shakes out in terms of expense. My money is on it becoming easier. I think in a few years, we're going to be all creating our own models on our phones.
Wow.
And if that's the case,
just run them locally.
Yeah, run them locally on your phone. You don't need the cloud. You don't need big tech. Suddenly, it's a very different world than we're all paying money to OpenAI or Anthropic or Microsoft or whoever for access to a core model.
You're listening to the Campaign Trend Podcast. I'm speaking with Bruce Schneier about his upcoming book about AI and what it means for politics. It's called Rewiring Democracy: How AI Will Transform Our Politics, Government, and Citizenship.
All right. Can I talk a bit about politics? I think it's really going to be interesting to see the midterms.
Please do.
We're already seeing AI being used in all sorts of areas of politics. We've seen congressional candidates use AI chatbots to engage with voters, right, legitimately. There was a candidate running for mayor in Tokyo, unknown kid, comes at like 5th out of 50 because he's using an AI chatbot to answer questions from constituents. We are seeing AI being used to help formulate campaign strategies. I know of one startup that uses AI to try to link candidates with financial supporters. Aquila AI is an AI company that helps people run for local office. There's going to be a lot going on here. There's one weird story. I'm going to tell it to you. Victor Miller. He's running for mayor of Cheyenne, Wyoming. And his platform is, I'm not making this up, elect me and I'll do what the AI tells me to do. He shows up in front of the press wearing this like speaker around his neck. Reporters ask him questions. and the AI answers. Kind of a crackpot. Luckily, didn't win. So weird stuff is happening.
And we are seeing it at the fringes, but the practitioners that I talk to and work with all the time are sort of quietly using it for things like data modeling. We put out a case study recently about how we used it to code open ends from a survey in a battleground congressional district, again giving us better scale and speed than humans. But all of the conversation focuses on deepfakes, AI generated misinformation, and I think it's fair to say that you would say that those aren't the biggest issues. So what should we be actually watching more closely?
I think those are largely red herring issues. I mean, they're what captures the imagination, but looking at AI assisting humans in this political process. So we have a chapter on AI polling. And it turns out that AIs can answer polls just like humans can. And they're getting better at it. I mean, people are freaked out by this, but those are people who know polling know that there's an enormous amount of math between the questions asked and the results you read in the newspaper. This is just more math. AIs can simulate humans and can answer poll questions. So maybe they're not as accurate, but you can ask an AI literally a million questions.
They
Right?
don't get tired of being on the phone.
The scale is enormous. So we expect a future to be some hybrid of human and AI polling where you have to poll real humans to calibrate your AI systems. Once you've got them calibrated, you could ask questions you'd be afraid to ask a human. What if I change my position on gun control? Right? You probably wouldn't ask that in a poll because it's dangerous to ask. You can ask an AI. You can ask an AI, here are 1,000 different ways to frame my message. Which one resonates more? So it's going to change how this human process of campaigning will work because AIs will intermediate in various spaces. There's a gentleman from India, Moti. I mean, not a great democratic example, but he uses AI to translate his speeches in real time to 20 plus Indian languages. I mean, that's a phenomenal use of the technology to connect with people. We are seeing, I think, Venezuela reporters who are afraid to show themselves use AI avatars to deliver their news reports for personal safety reasons.
Yeah, and that example of India is one that I go to a lot when we look at some of the regulations that are happening here in the US at the state level, where I think it risks throwing the baby out with the bathwater of saying, you can't use any synthetic media, you'll be removed from the ballot. I mean, it sort of is all over the place. But we find examples of, wouldn't it be better for people to hear from candidates in their own language? So how should we think about regulation where we balance, getting this right, solving for some real problems, but not freezing innovation?
So I always think the regulation versus innovation argument is a bullshit argument. I mean, right? Good regulation sense innovation. And I think the way to think about it is think about less of the tech and more of the output. Like, why should I care whether a fake ad is made by AI or actors on a soundstage? That doesn't make a difference. If we decide, and we may or may not, to regulate political advertising, it shouldn't be the mechanism by which the ad was created. It should be what the ad is. And I think that's true in a lot of tech systems. So I want people to be able to experiment with AI, but I really do want strong AI regulations. Europe is doing a halfway decent job. At least they're trying. Some states, California particularly, are trying to regulate the technologies. And here I'm really worried about AI used in applications where you all have to trust it. So if I'm a candidate or an attorney or a judge or a legislator and I use AI, only I have to trust it, right? I mean, I'm using it to make a draft, to write things, but it's my output. If an AI is being used to make bail decisions, we all have to trust it. right? As a judge, I hire law clerks with bias all the time, right? They share my biases. I'm going to use an AI that shares my biases. That's not going to be okay if we want the AI to be a neutral arbiter, if we want it to be someone that's deciding how to deploy a police force, or who gets into college, who gets a job, who gets a loan.
So is the solution there transparency around that, or accountability? What do we do?
It's all of the above: transparency and accountability. Yes, transparency is good, but without accountability, it doesn't really do anything. So you need a lot of things. One of the things we talk about in the book, and there's a growing movement here, something called public AI, an AI system that is not created by a for-profit corporation for their own profit. This is not far-fetched. Singapore is building a public AI system called Sea Lion, designed for Southeast Asian languages. Switzerland just announced a public AI. France is working on one. We are seeing it's on one of the political parties in the UK. It's on their platform. And this is not a replacement for corporate AI, but some counterpoint where we could have an AI system that has political accountability and not just shareholder accountability. That feels really important to me.
Yeah, and I think one of this is a point that I make, and you did a good job making it more eloquently than I do, is that the concern with regulation is, voter suppression or something like that. That's already illegal without
Right.
the AI.
Right. It's illegal whether an AI does it or whether your Congress critter does it.
Right. And so I think there's just so much panic about it. So it's important that we sort of pause, think about it. What can we do at the individual level, whether that citizens can take right now to make sure that our use of AI is responsible thing? Is there anything that we can do, or is this on the hands of big tech and the government?
A lot of it's the hands of big tech and government, but if I have a message for individuals, it is that don't form your opinions about the technology and walk away. That this stuff is changing incredibly fast. We start out with ChatGPT and it gets math wrong. It doesn't get math wrong anymore. Like, it knows how to consult a math processor, and things about what we call hallucinations or errors or capabilities. All the time it's changing. So keep an open mind, because this tech moves very fast. On the other hand, a lot of the claims are hype. So don't believe the claims either. That, we need to have some skepticism and an open mind. And that's a little hard, but this technology is going to change a lot of things. And we just don't know how, and we don't know when, but it will.
So we've had folks on talking about the idea of running an AI candidate, but you talk about an AI enhanced citizen. What does that look like, and could it actually improve civic engagement?
So I think it can, but so some of this is scary and some of this is science fictiony. But let's sort of walk through it. Right now, today, I happen to be in Toronto now visiting, which is really why you have empty bookshelves behind me. Normally, I'm in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and when I vote in a local election, this is what I do. I ignore it completely. The day before I'm going to vote, I go online, I find a voting guide, I read about the candidates, and decide who to vote for. Right? So already I am using the internet to help me vote. A step forward might be I query an AI and say to the AI, you know me, right? You're my AI assistant. Go look at the candidates. Tell me who I should vote for. Is that any different? Well, it's very similar. You take another step. You know me. You know the candidates. Here's my voting password. Go online and vote for me. Like, do we like that? I don't know. Maybe.
We need paper ballots.
Yeah. Right? But if we have an AI enhanced citizen in that way, there's a bunch of things we can do. We could have 100 ballot initiatives, 100 candidates. Suddenly, the size of the ballot doesn't matter because I'm not paying attention to it. The AI is doing it for me. We could vote every month, right? All things are possible. Now, this is walking us further and further away from democracy, though. Now, Even further, we could say to a big AI, you know the citizens, you know the candidates, like pretend to run the election, tell us who would have won. By the way, let's just dispense with candidates entirely. You know the people, you know what they want, you know their political preferences. Tell us what the income tax rate should be. Tell us what our foreign policy should be. Uh, right? All steps down this line, getting us further away from democracy. Now, we could say as society, if the AI gives us better outcomes, let's just do it. I'm more likely to say, that doesn't work. Democracy requires us to do democracy. That an AI that tells us the answer isn't a good thing, even if it gives us good answers. That the business of democracy is how we form our opinions. So, is science fiction-y, but those are the sorts of things to think about. And it starts with what I do today, which is go online and figure out who to vote for, because honestly, I'm not paying attention to the city council.
Yeah. The wheels are turning.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And some of that's pretty scary.
Well, I really look forward to reading the book, and it'll be out this fall. We'll include links in the show notes, and folks can check out your blog. My thanks to Bruce for a great conversation. Be sure to check out all of those links in the show notes. If this episode made you a little bit smarter or gave you something to think about, like it did me, all we ask is that you share it with a friend or colleague. That way, more people learn about the podcast. You look smarter. It's a win-win all around. Remember to subscribe to the Campaign Trend podcast wherever you get your podcast, and visit our website at campaigntrend.com. With that, I'll say thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.